Let's talk about starting an LLC in New York. What are the steps you need to follow? What are the procedures? What are everything you need to know? What is everything you need to know if you want to start an LLC in New York? Let me give you the overview you need to pay attention to. Let's first talk about LLC cost in New York. A lot of folks are talking about that. So, as of the date of this show, the cost to file an LLC in New York is $205. Is it more expensive than other places? Yes. I mean, in other places you're paying between $50 and $75, in some cases $100, but in New York it's 205. Okay, and you can actually expedite processing 4 to 5 days for $50, or rush it in 1 2 days for $79. And so basically, if you pay the 205, included in those 205 is actually a fee for something called a paper copy fee. Okay, so those are things you need to pay attention to. It's really important to understand that you can actually do it yourself, or you can actually hire a third party, let's say a professional, to actually do it for you. Some people actually just hire an attorney, they hire a lawyer to file for their LLC in New York. So you have three ways to do it to actually file for an LLC in New York. You can actually do it yourself. You can actually have an entity formation service, or you can hire a professional, and that professional can be a lawyer. So when we talk about LLC, like New York LLC fees, the formation is only one process. You also need to think about other fees. You need to look out for other fees. Other fees, rather. You have the certificate of publication. You have the biennial statement. So the biennial statements actually will cost you $9. You also need to think about New York LLC name reservation. So reserving a name for your New York LLC cost about $20 to $30. Okay, you can reserve your name online or by filing a name reservation request form, and also you can also have access to DBA name in New York. If you want to go by a different name in public than your LLC's legal name, you can also reserve a fictitious name for $25. Okay, and basically having a registered agent, you can be your own New York registered agent, or you can hire a third party to take care of that for you. This might probably cost you about $30 to $100 per year. Okay, and if you need to make a change to your articles of organization, the fee is $60 for an amendment. So anytime you have amendments, $60. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. Now that I really talked to you a little bit about the fees that are involved in having an LLC in New York, let's go through the steps if you want to form your LLC in New York. First of all, you need to name your LLC. So basically, the when we talk about the naming rights or the naming procedure in New York, things are pretty straightforward. It's really time to introduce yourself. All limited liability companies they need a unique name. So naming your New York LLC is one of the first things you need to do, right? So there are some business naming rules in New York. So basically, you need to make sure that your business name is available in New York. It has to meet New York naming requirements, and you can secure a website domain also. And regardless of the business entity you create, your new company needs to meet those requirements. Okay, and so basically, the good thing is there is a New York business name checker, and so just run your business name through that. And basically, you have to go to the New York State Department and Department of Corporations, and then really you can see if your name is available there, or you can actually go to a third party professional service to kind of help you out. Okay, if the name is available, you can either reserve it now or plan to use it when you file for your New York LLC later on. And this is kind of important. And one thing you need to really pay attention to is that always make sure that you actually comply with the latest laws and regulations, not only at the state level, but also at the local level or even county level. For instance, if you want to have an LLC in New York City, you have to not only pay attention to the LLC rules at the New York State level, but also the LLC rules in the city of New York. Okay, and here I'm speaking about not only regulation wise, but also taxation wise. As you know, if you have an LLC in New York City, for instance, you're paying city taxes, and in addition to state taxes and also federal taxes. So be compliant with all those things. And if you have no time or you have no knowledge, it's just better to outsource the whole thing to a third party. You can also have an attorney handle things on your behalf. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about how to start an LLC in New York. The second thing you want to do here is to choose a registered agent. So basically, when you after naming your LLC, you need to choose someone who will receive correspondence, legal correspondence, or let's just say regulatory correspondence on your behalf. Okay, and so all New York LLCs need to have a registered agent, and your registered agent is your LLC's point of contact with the state it's registered in. And so the thing here is that you want your New York LLC registered agent to be available during business hours. Here we're speaking about 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. because your agent is responsible for accepting legal notices, like if your company is sued, for instance. Okay, and it's important to understand that your New York LLC registered agent also needs to be a New York resident or have a New York address. And when we talk about registered agent options, you have a few of them. Actually, you have three most important ones. You can serve as your own registered agent as long as you have a physical address, a physical street address in New York. But it might be a great idea to have someone else represent your company. So you can either hire a registered agent service, and so they'll take care of it for you, or you can even just sort of outsource that task to your attorney, for instance, or if you have a CPA, if you have an accountant, your CPA can actually do that for you. But it's important to understand that it's all about flexibility, but it's also about liability protection. Okay, liability, you want to preserve your assets also. In our view, it's just better to hire a registered agent service, and so for a small fee, the company will guarantee that they are available and at a given address to handle any requirements for you. It's one less thing for you to worry about as a business owner, because it basically, the bottom line here is that if you are a New York LLC and you want to really maintain a certificate of good standing, because the last thing you want is to be served papers, to be served court papers, to be served regulatory papers, and nobody's there to actually sign or actually to acknowledge the receipt of papers. That's really bad for your business, and you do not want your New York LLC to be dissolved by the state. The third thing you want to do here is to file your articles of organization. And so before legally operating a New York LLC, you need to file articles of organization with the Secretary of State, along with a one-time state filing fee of $200. $200, okay? And you already know that part. I spoke to you about it earlier. So $200. And New York accepts filings online, by mail, or via personal delivery. Whatever works for you, just go with it. We advise all our clients to actually go with an online delivery. Okay, and so you want to mail your articles. If you want to mail your articles of organization, you can do so along with a check for your filing fee, made payable to the New York Department of State, to New York State Department of State Division of Corporations. You have state records and uniform commercial code. We'll put everything on the screen. We'll put the address on the screen. You have One Commerce Plaza, 99 Washington Avenue. So Washington Avenue, and Albany, New York, 12231. So the thing is that you can also deliver your articles of organization in person to the above address and pay your filing fee. Or you can also fax your articles of organization along with a credit card, debit card authorization form to the Division of Corporations, State Records, and Uniform Commercial Code at 518-474-1418. Again, the number here is 518-474-1418. I mean, nowadays a lot of folks don't use fax anymore to communicate among themselves. But if you're one of those folks who still love to actually use fax, that's the number you have. Today, I mean, most people actually just will send everything via email to the Department of State in New York, and everything gets handled at that level. So whether you actually file online, by mail, or via personal delivery, make sure you have a confirmation that your filings have been received, right? Because the last thing you want is to actually sit around thinking that everything is fine, and the New York State Department is telling you, hey, we haven't received anything, or we haven't received the whole information we need from you. So again, make sure that you have a confirmation. If you file online, you should receive a notification telling you, okay, they have received it. If you file in person, make sure that you get a mail delivery sort of confirmation. The next thing you want to do here is to create an operating agreement. And so basically, we encourage you to draft an operating agreement for your LLC in New York. While it's not required in most states, New York does require an operating agreement when you file your LLC. Okay, so New York is actually one of those states that's very, I would say, proactive when it comes to requiring the filing of an operating agreement. Now, operating agreements are legally binding contracts and documents that provide clear and concise definitions of all ownership and management terms and rules. Operating agreements can also protect personal assets of the LLC owners and outline ownership percentages, responsibilities, voting power, and a succession plan in case an owner decides to leave the business. Also, you need to think about the fact that operating agreement can prevent any miscommunication and resolve any conflicts between members. Okay, so it's really important to understand that when you want to have an LLC in New York, it's one of those. An operating agreement is actually the foundation that will really make sure that your LLC is protected no matter what. Okay, and you will not regret having an LLC operating agreement. So utilizing an operating agreement templates can help you, can actually set you up for success regarding having the right business structure and format for this important document. So if you do not want to spend, let's say, I mean, you always have the option, let's say, depending upon the depth and breadth of content you want to have in your operating agreement, you can actually just hire an attorney to actually draft the documents for you. Or you can hire a professional service to actually have to draft the document for you. Or even better, you can actually just go online, get a template, and sort of fill that template to be close as possible to what you would like to have. Because obviously, when you hire an attorney, you're paying hundreds of dollars, right, to write an operating agreement and other stuff. And when you hire professional service, you might pay a little less, but you're still paying something. So if you want to do things yourself, if you want to take care of all the procedures and all the steps yourself, it's just better to use an operating agreement template. There are a few of them on the internet. And if you need help, just let us know in the comment section. We'll get back to you, and we'll just send you the link for an operating agreement template in New York. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about how to start an LLC in New York. The next thing you want to do here is to get an EIN. So basically, if you want to start an LLC in New York, after actually naming your LLC, choosing a registered agent, filing your articles of organization, and creating an operating agreement, getting an EIN is really the next logical step. Now, the reason why you want to get an EIN, you can actually just open a bank account. You can open a new account, business account, that's for sure, for your LLC. You can also actually sign a business insurance contract. You can also hire people. So because if you have employees, you will need an EIN. So an employer identification number officially registers your company with the federal government, with the IRS particularly, and also known as federal tax ID numbers. EINs are typically required to open a business bank account, get business credit cards, or hire employees, as I just said, okay? And you can actually apply for an EIN on the IRS websites, or you can use an EIN service when you form your LLC, and basically that service will handle things on your behalf. But it's just a lot of LLC members choose to have a service, a professional service, an EIN service to handle everything for them, because basically they have no time. Because the last thing you want is to file some paperwork with the state authorities and even the federal authorities, and things are not right, but then you just find out at the very last minute. So when you have professionals involved, you're getting the right type of advice, not only at the federal level, but also at the state level. And one thing I also need to say here is that when you get your EIN, remember that you can actually, if you file online, you basically are getting your EIN within literally within 5 to 10 minutes. Once you hit the submit button, you get your EIN right away. If you file with paperwork, you might actually need to plan between 3 and 6 months before you actually get your paperwork. Sometimes you might get it a little sooner. It really depends on the backlog that they have in the IRS office that you actually reached out to. But the bottom line is, the earlier you start the process, the better it is. So basically, after you've done everything, so really, after naming your LLC, choosing a registered agent, filing your articles of organization, creating an operating agreement, getting an EIN, you need to check New York annual requirements. So basically, the thing is that you have a certificate of publication. It's important that you remember to run your articles of organization in a local newspaper for 6 consecutive weeks, and then file your certificate of publication along with your $50 filing fee. So basically, this is important in terms of publication. You also need to think about a biannual report. So New York LLCs have to pay a $9 biannual report filing fee every other year. And also think about avoiding fees. So to avoid costly fees, you want to actually use an annual report service to actually receive important notifications and help to file your biannual reports, among other things. You also need to stay legally compliant. So you might need to make certain changes to your business over time. For example, you may get a registered agent, or let's say change your business address. So New York needs to be aware. This changes actually like whenever you make those changes to your LLC, you need to actually inform state authorities by filing amendments. And so speaking of amendments, some changes require an amendment with the states. So you can actually go online and search for a legal like New York LLC amendments. It's as simple as that. I mean, or you can just reach out to us and we'll just give you the answers. So the bottom line here is that you want to actually stay compliant, right? Stay legally compliant, but really, really, like the emphasis here is on compliance, because the last thing you want is to actually hear words about you not being active, or you actually violating the rules, or you actually violating the laws. So please be sure that you have everything in place to really understand what works for you. The bottom line here is that when you think about starting an LLC in New York, it's all about, like, beyond the regulatory aspect of things, it's all about actually having liquidity, because New York is an important state. It's an important state for every company. And if you want to succeed here in this city, you better have like a solid budget, like a strategy, not only at the personal level, but also at the business level, so that you are maintaining your LLC amendments. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about how to start an LLC in New York. And I talked to you about naming your LLC, choosing a registered agent, filing your articles of organization, creating an operating agreement, getting an EIN, check New York State annual requirements, and staying legally compliant. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.